Hello everyone, welcome back to the Amber Serpent. My name is Gulveg. So happy holidays to everyone. We are now right in the middle of the holiday season between Thanksgiving and New Year's. And we also this week went into Mercury retrograde. So there's a lot going on. For those of us who are not familiar with what Mercury retrograde is, it's a time in the sky in which Mercury looks like it's backing up in the sky. So it's an optical illusion, but astrologically speaking, it is reversing its pull on things like communication, travel, and basic energy of productivity. So make sure that you plan ahead. Don't leave sending out packages to for the last minute, because it's not going to bode well with Mercury being in retrograde. And it's also a really great time to take a look inside, meditate, to make plans but not do anything about them quite yet for the new year. It's a real great time to clean house, both physically as well as metaphorically speaking. So let's take a look and see what the runes have to say as far as what would be the best use of our time and energy for the next week. I know that we usually keep it a little bit more vague than that, but right now with Mercury being in retrograde and with all of the craziness that the holiday season gives us, it might be a really good question to ask, how should we prioritize our time, our energy, our money, our resources, things of that nature. All right, so we're going to ask the runes. We're going to blow the intention to the runes as always. Blow the intention, the question, in what way would serve our highest good at this time to focus our time and energy and resources? And we have someone here who is wanting to help us. This is little boy. He's a very magical kitty, and he typically comes around when I'm doing this kind of work. So he's going to help us, I think, unless he wants to move on. Are you wanting to move on? Yeah? Okay. All right. So let's move on. You can come back if you want to, okay? All right. Okay. All right, in what way would we be best served to spend our time, resources, and energy in the following week? All right, we have rune number 3. We have rune number 2. And we have rune number 1. Okay, so take a moment to feel for yourself which runes are pulling your attention the most. So if this is your first time joining us with the Amber Serpent, the way that this works is you'll get an opportunity right now to choose which one, or at least prioritize which ones are drawing you the most. And that will help give you some information as to which one of these, or which part of this reading is going to be most pertinent to your particular situation, challenges that you might be facing, and for your week. So I'll give you a closer look here so that you can take a look. Sometimes folks make their choice based on what the stone looks like. So we have rune number 3, 2, and 1. There we go. All right, so have it in your head? Okay, all right. So rune number 1, we have the horse and the rider. Looks like an M. I was, and this is a rune that for me when it comes up, it is typically, it's usually pointing most to like partnerships. So if you think about like the relationship between a horse and a rider, there's almost not even a need to verbally communicate, or not very much, because it's just this intuitive knowing between the horse and the rider. When there's something not right with the horse, the rider always knows, even if nobody else notices that there's something not right with the horse. Also with that as well, in relation to that is, if we take a look at it from like a metaphor, the horse can also be a symbol of our more primal parts of ourselves, that gut instinct, that place where we connect with our intuition. And because, for example, like if the rider is riding the horse and the horse starts feeling like it's jerking and it's nervous, the rider will notice, but he may not be able to be aware of what it is that the horse is sensing, right? So it's that more primal part of us that sometimes senses things in our environment, even when we're not consciously aware of it. So this is very much a rune that is speaking to us connecting with specific others that we can partner with, and it's also a rune that indicates a need for reconnecting and sitting with parts of ourselves. And with Mercury going into retrograde, that's not really an accident, because this is definitely a time in which we start to clean house psychologically and start taking a look at, what habits, beliefs, things of that nature that don't really serve us, that perhaps if we take a look at the last year, have played a part, and what do we need to do in order to be able to let go of things that aren't really useful to us, so that the next year can be something that is even more productive and more full of gifts. So this is also about partnering up with aspects of ourselves that maybe we've forgotten about, or that are underutilized, or that are maybe shadowed over by habits and beliefs that aren't really very helpful. And then we have number 2, Isa. And what's really interesting is that, we have the horse and the rider here, where it's talking about not just partnerships with other individuals, but partnerships with ourselves. And here, this rune is the ice rune, and it's a rune that usually stands for inertia, slowing down. A situation's frozen, for example, and that's very much the energy of Mercury retrograde. So this is a very appropriate rune for this week. But also, in conjunction with what we just talked about with the horse and the rider, is this need to slow down, this need to go within, and also to connect with the law of attraction, because inertia too is associated with the field of gravity. There's no other stronger force in the world or in the universe than the field of gravity, at least that we know of. So this is also not necessarily the creativity or manifestation that we are typically associate, where it's like going out and getting what it is that we want, and productivity and pushing through and a lot of action. This is very much more about allowing ourselves to stay still and creating those plans, so that later on we can use the law of attraction to be able to bring to ourselves the situations, the relationships, the opportunities, in order to be able to be as productive as possible. And then we have number 3. We have the elk rune. And the elk rune is, it's a very powerful protection rune. So there may be a aspect here of making choices on creating healthy boundaries. So because this is a rune that's often used to create, you can create a sacred circle with this one, with this particular rune, for example. It's also associated with the Green Man, antlers. It's associated with tapping into divine higher source. So in that way, there is some similarities here between the two runes here. We have the horse and the rider, and we have the elk rune, which both have some similarities as far as tapping into that more primal part of us that just knows, the part of us that doesn't have to weigh the pros and cons, the part of us that just intuitively knows what it is best to do. And also from what I'm feeling here as well is that this has a lot to do, because of Esau here, this has a lot to do with tapping into our intuition and to source and tapping into the guidance that our guides have to offer us, asking for that divine guidance in order to be able to be protected from the inefficiency of the season, the lack of communication. During Mercury retrograde, we know that technology often has more glitches than it does when it's not in retrograde. So that can be part of it, as well as using our intuition to guide us so that we have less issues with lack of communication or being misunderstood. And this is also a really great time here too to get still so that we can take that time that is absolutely needed in order to be able to connect, so that we know what right actions are to be taken at the right time going into the new year. So it's really the overall theme here for this next week is really about, it's okay to be still. Even though that there's a lot to do, it's okay to maybe even do nothing. Just contemplate the fact of just not doing anything and allowing ourselves to have that time, that space to be able to connect with our intuition, to be able to connect with our divine self, to meditate, to do yoga, to get out the tarot cards, get out the runes, read some inspirational books that we've been tending to read but have been just on the shelf collecting dust. These things that feed our spirit, that feed our soul, that's really what it says here that is going to be the most fulfilling thing, the most beneficial way for us to use our time and energy and resources in this next week. So with that being said, I do hope that with all the hustle and bustle of the season, that you all will find at least a moment of peace in order to be able to connect and to find some stillness in the chaos of the season. So I wish all of you a wonderful week, and I look forward to seeing you here at the Amber Serpent next week. Thanks. Bye-bye.